Welcome back to the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Today I have Shae Jacobs joining me to discuss his latest EP, What's Hard to Say. Really fun time talking with him. And remember, you can listen to this podcast on all of your favorite platforms, but JacksonNeillPodcasts.com is the home for every single one of my episodes. And since today is a video interview, no matter what platform you're on, go down in the description. The first link you'll see, that'll take you to JacksonNeillPodcasts.com if you want to watch the video portion of this interview. So today, bringing on Shae Jacobs. His latest EP, What's Hard to Say, is one that I'm really excited for you guys to all hear. In this interview, he talks about the creative vision for this EP. He talks about his time working behind the scenes for artists like Snoop Dogg, Jason Derulo, Sigrid, and more. Just a really interesting guy, one I had a lot of fun talking with, and I think you guys will all enjoy this conversation. So, here's my interview with Shae Jacobs. How has it been working on your upcoming EP, What's Hard to Say?
It's been amazing. I think mainly because I'm a producer and songwriter on the outside of myself as an artist. So I get to kind of take different sounds and influences from different places and bring them into my world as much as I can. And I really enjoy the aspect of being busy. I'm such a busy person, but I enjoy being active and on my feet. And whenever I write a song, and I could just do just with my fellow industry people, write a crazy song with someone. Sometimes they just turn around and they're just we think this is for you. And they're good to gift me with it, I say. I feel like I'm honored that they want me to kind of take it to the next stage.
Definitely, yeah. So the first thing I noticed about the EP, of course, is the name. And I know you're a guy who's been working in the background behind the scenes for a while. And,
yeah.
Including working as sometimes as a songwriter, if I'm miscorrect. Why
Yeah.
What's hard to say? I mean, you're a songwriter. This should be, why that name?
That's true. That's a good flip. I think for me, it's not necessarily what's hard to say in terms of writing. I think it's more for the common man. Okay. I think I wrote, not even I think, I know. I definitely wrote it specifically to target things that men have struggled to say for a long time in relationships and just difficult situations. So I picked that title. It was originally called something else. And when I went through the track listing again and when I completed it, which was months ago, I literally was looking at the listing and I was like, okay, this title is close, but it's not exactly right. And I feel like the EP title came to me like lightning. It just hit me and I was like, this makes way more sense. Saying What's Hard to Say as the EP title makes so much more sense than what it was before. So I kind of put that into perspective and looked at every single song title on the EP just represents that title much better.
Okay. You mentioned right there that this is about kind of what's hard to say for men in maybe a relationship kind of instance. Why that route? Why did you go for that one on this EP?
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
So you kind of have this this idea of what's hard to say for men, and you mentioned in certain instances relationships, and for me that's a kind of it's a pretty straightforward focus. Why did you go with that kind of focus on this project?
I think because no one else has really done it this way, and we write songs for so many people every day. I have gone into rooms written for people who just want uplifting songs and people who just want songs that are negative as hell, and some people wanted stuff that's just emo. But I thought, you know what? Emo songwriting is really dope. I really like it. So there's a lot of people that I enjoy listening to that do that, and Spotify is really crowded with that at the moment. But I thought, you know what? No one's given a superhuman feeling, where it's I still like this, but I still can't have this, and I'm sad about this, but I want this. And every song is kind of there's positive and the negatives. Every single record kind of feels okay, we were together, we are still in love, but we're not. And it's we're in a tricky situation, and it's a strange angle to a conversation, And I thought, when you're a new artist, you have to come with something different. You can't kind of come with a standard record that everybody else wants to hear. People want to hear something that's incredibly unique because it's very hard for new artists to break through. And I just thought, this is my way. This is my interpolation. This is my angle that I thought would make much more sense to me.
Definitely, yeah. And you're so right with that whole breaking through as a new artist, and I like that idea of the kind of duality, like you said, the positive and negatives on each side of this, on each song and the project as a whole.
Yeah, this is it. This is where I take my satisfaction, is finding a relatable angle which no one has touched yet, and I feel like not many guys have really kind of expressed that. They still want somebody when they're not supposed to want that person in this way, where it's like, you kind of messed me up, like you kind of broke me, but then at the same time, like, I still want you there. It's like there's still this beautiful positive thing in between it all,
It's almost like a little bit of vulnerability.
Yeah, exactly that. I wanted to expose myself and be vulnerable for once, rather than just sounding cool. And trust me, that's more music's coming where I'm going to sound cool, but I'm still vulnerable. I'm still like honest. I'm still like opening up and being what a lot of people don't want to be. They're scared to kind of express themselves in that way.
Mm-hmm. And I find that very interesting because you mentioned you've worked behind the scenes, you worked with some big names before. It's kind of been that's what you're used to, and now you're coming out as your own artist, and your first release is going to be a vulnerable kind of look at yourself as an artist. Was that kind of hard for you to make that decision and give up yourself kind of like that?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. I was sweating a couple times. I mean, when I dropped like Space at first, I was like, has anyone really spoke about this? Saying like, maybe you need some space from me? Like, I kind of was scouring the internet and kind of looking for similar songs, but I couldn't really find something that was like spot on in my field, in my area of conversation. And my A&R at the time, still my A&R now, bless her, she's amazing. She was like, no one has really spoke about this. And she's very good with lyric, and she like really helped me like shape this project in a way that really makes sense and is very, very unique. So I think now where I'm at with it is, yes, I was sweating, but I think now I'm more comfortable with it because everyone's kind of used to like, oh, this is just Shae. He kind of talks about things that are like not necessarily like easy to,
Yeah, exactly.
For the title, what's hard to say?
Exactly. So I kind of want to touch on this kind of behind the scenes aspect since we're on it right now, and how has that kind of helped you, I guess, as being your own artist? How has that previous experience working with all these other people from some other, I'm reading people like Snoop Dogg, Jason Derulo, Sigrid, different genres. How does that help your own music?
Oh my God, it's helped me so much. So like I originally came from like the gospel background when I was 16. Like I started in a church. So that was all I heard was filled up chords and like, I mean, like if you was to have your hands on the keyboard, it was like every single finger was laid on that keyboard. And they all taught me that simplicity is best. And like I kind of describe it with everybody, especially when I'm like mentoring like the younger songwriters. I kind of tell them, I describe songwriting as like a very fine arrow to a very fine point. The finer the arrow and the smaller the point, and once you hit that bullseye, it's a hit song. And I feel like there are many hit songs. Honestly, I truly believe there are many hit songs that are hit songs without, it's just that the circumstance doesn't allow it to be. But like, I feel like when you pull on that arrow, you just let go. And those lyrics and everything you say hit that target very specifically. And I feel like every single artist that I worked with, from Jason to like Cheat Codes, Chainsmokers, they all have shown me like, okay, what they want to say and like their perspective, and the way everyone writes different, by the way. Some people, Jason wants to talk about cool things and songs with a bounce. And then he wants to do like his like really, really like global world sounding songs. I feel like now I've gained all those skills from all these people and all their influences. And it kind of gives me a great overview of what's missing, what's needed to be said that hasn't been said before, and how can I make what they're doing my own version. So I kind of pull in and make this love child from everybody's like experiences. And when I have to go into a session and work for an R&B artist, when I have to go into a session and work for a rap artist or a crazy old left pop artist, I get to gather all of their strengths and kind of take it for my own, my own form of art. They've helped me. I'm very grateful working with them.
It's that crazy kind of blend of everything to create, your own unique sound like you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy because like I have so many aspects of my sound. I feel like that's why we're calling this part one. I feel like I'm not done yet in explaining who I am. Like this is like full of the big records. This is like the spot-ons, and like I say such clear, concise things. My next one's gonna be more cooler bounce. There's gonna be a couple bounce rhythm in there. It was just stuff that I've heard over the years, and I've just collated it closely together. It's really cool.
Yeah, for new artists, it's like that. Those first couple releases of projects, it's kind of like, okay, we're figuring out who that person is, an artist, and how I can relate to this person and enjoy their music.
Yeah, that's very much so. It's like, where is this going next? That's everyone's kind of like looking at that.
Exactly. So I kind of want to go back a little bit. In 2018, you released, several singles that were able to gain some recognition. And as an early artist, what was that like to have some singles, put on playlists and things like that?
Oh my God, that was amazing. I had a very, very incredible help. I don't do this by myself. I have an incredible team of people that work around me, and we were able to get it on New Music Friday. Our first single, which like obviously generates so much plays and like gets you seen straight away, and Spotify really, really, really like kind of put a spotlight on me then, and they also began a playlist every other song, like slowly but surely. It's like we just built traction. We're very, very upfront. We kind of let Cobalt know and AWOL know that they're very much so like involved, and they help you so much. And they don't interrupt your flow of music. They just help you with the business strategy and putting things together. And not one person was negative around me. Everyone's so supportive, and that's one thing I'm thankful for. It's like they let you be you, let you be your own artist. And things like Spotify and Apple Music, they have been such an incredible help for me. Such an incredible help, because they're the gatekeepers now. They're the only way you're going to be seen, unless you have a crazy budget.
And not everyone has a crazy budget. And you're so right. I mean, like, I look at all the time on those playlists, and I'm like, oh, who are some artists, or like the new music on Apple Music. That's how I find out about a lot of people nowadays.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very thankful for them.
Mm-hmm. So these singles, you seem like a guy who's very like, has stuff kind of planned out and like, thoroughly thinks through like each kind of release and everything. That makes me want to ask, why these singles? Why did you decide that these would be your first several songs released?
I think Space, I'll go through each one very quickly. Space, I think, was such a unique record where it's like a perfect blend between my R&B soul side and my pop side. And I did it with like this incredible producer named Shifkey. And we kind of just did that in a session. We were trying to create a new sound. And literally we landed on that, and I took that to a couple A&Rs to pitch it, and they were all like, this really sounds like you. Fuck Me Up, very much so too, was just, it was just a feeling. I kind of wrote that with Trey Campbell. I wrote that with Trey Campbell and Jonas Carlson, and it was just a moment that I just couldn't let go of. I had that song for a while. I didn't let go of that, Mm-hmm. And it made sense to drop that next. It definitely made sense. We were originally going to put Jealous first, but we felt like Jealous was a slightly consistent with Space, so we wanted to pull that away for a second and put Fuck Me Up in between it, because it just was a curveball for everybody. It was a step up. And then when we dropped Jealous, it was like we placed it so well in the season, and it was such a big song. It got like the most response, because I feel like a lot of guys were like, I didn't ever think of it this way. And it's funny because Jealous is a title with two big songs already. Labyrinth, which I really respect his version of Jealous, and Nick Jonas's version of Jealous, which is incredible. But I kind of was like, I'm brave enough to put out the same title song, and I really, really feel like it could get some traction, and it really did. It's actually my best performing song right now. Yeah. And then finally, Not Supposed To, I wanted to start the year fresh. I wanted to start the year with my 90s side. I have such a retro vibe for this whole project, and like kind of describing where I'm from, and like all my favorite TV shows. So I've blended all the music videos from like all my influences and put them together. it made so much sense to put Not Supposed to out last as the final single, with the most creative video, with we went hard. We went really hard in planning that video. We actually spent almost 2 months planning that video, so it was perfect.
Mm-hmm. That's it's crazy. Like when you were talking through the singles, I kind of had like some similar thoughts. I love the single "Jealous." That was the one I was playing back a lot when I was before preparing for this interview. Maybe so I was upping your plays for you there.
Thank you very much.
So you're talking through these songs, and like I said, kind of a little bit before, you're an artist that has things very thought out. And especially your lyrics as well. There's a lot of you said talk about space. You wanted to write about something different that people don't really touch on. So, if there's a new listener out there and they want to listen to this upcoming EP, What's Hard to Say, what would you tell them before their first listen, just how to like go in listening to those songs, I guess?
I would say prepare for a very human experience. I'd say prepare for, you're going to hear things that maybe your favorite artist hasn't said yet. I feel like that's very much so what my EP does. Is it kind of represents a place in a conversation that's not been touched on,
mm-hmm.
So that's probably what I would say.
So, with that in mind, EP's coming out in just a little over, what is it, the 15th today? So it comes out on April 24th. It's coming out soon. How are you feeling, man?
I am so excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's crazy because, I think I'm hopping on a flight the next day, but, I'm going straight back to London. But I'm very, very, very excited. I feel like I can finally, let this part of me out and let everyone enjoy this for a good amount of time before I surprise everyone with a new one, or maybe not. We don't know yet. We haven't, fully planned it. Well, we're getting there. But it's I'm very much so excited for everyone to kind of hear the full body of work and understand what this whole EP is about as a complete piece. And the focus track on that, there's one song that I really want everyone to look out for. It's called How to Be Friends. It's one that is so relatable to everybody. There's no one on this earth that can't. If you've not experienced love, then okay. But even then, it's such a relatable song.
Well, Shae, thank you so much for doing this interview. I'm looking forward to this EP so much after talking to you. I'm already certain it's going to be great.
Thank you so much.
Again, a big thank you to Shae for coming onto the podcast. Remember, go out and stream What's Hard to Say. It's going to be out by the time you guys hear this podcast. You can go down in the description. There you'll find links to What's Hard to Say on your streaming platforms. Also, you'll find links to his Twitter, his Instagram, stuff like that, maybe his website, anything that I think you guys need to know about Shae. Go down in the description, find those links so you can definitely check out his stuff and keep up to date with everything that he's doing. With that, that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can go to jacksonneillpodcast.com to check out all the episodes of Anything Goes, as well as my sports and music ones. So go visit jacksonneillpodcast.com. Also, if you like this interview and my other interviews that I do, and you want a little bit extra bonus content, then go over to Patreon. My link is down in the description for my Patreon account, and support the podcast on there by becoming a monthly subscriber. The bonus content for this podcast includes Shae talking about, Game of Thrones, favorite TV shows, favorite music he's listening to right now, all that great stuff, and also bonus content for all my previous interviews in the past month and a half or so as well. So as soon as you become a subscriber, you get access to the upcoming stuff as well as all the past stuff. So go visit my Patreon account. Last thing that's down there in the description, I promise, the last links are links to my own social media accounts at JacksonNeill20 on Twitter and Instagram. So make sure to check those out as well. And give me a follow if you like the content. With that, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.